think a lot of times, at least for me, the biggest thing that comes up is your inner critic. And, that voice in your head that's saying like, oh, you're not good enough to do that. You'll never be able to accomplish that. Maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. Who are you to think that you can do this? It's hard when you want to go and accomplish things and go try something new. And I've noticed that one of the biggest inhibitors of accomplishing things and reaching your goals and getting out of your own way is your inner critic. Welcome to episode 78 of Working Towards Our Purpose. In today's episode, we are going to talk about how to stop getting in your own way in 2026. But before we get into that, we are going to do a little check-in with ourselves and take a moment to see how we're feeling. All right. Yeah. So I'm in a little bit of a different setup today, partly because I'm trying to move my backdrop for my YouTube going into next year and trying to think about what looks a little bit more aesthetic. And also partly because my room here is a mess. So, trying something new, feeling a little uncomfortable, a little different, holding the microphone today. So that's different. Got probably a little bit shorter of an episode today for you. It's going to be the last episode of 2025. And excited to talk about new things, new beginnings. It's the time of year where we're maybe setting resolutions or thinking about what we want to do in 2026, maybe thinking about what we've done in 2025. I always kind of get excited around this time of year because I'm a dreamer naturally, I guess, and I like to think of, things that I want to accomplish. And, it seems, even though it's just another day, it seems like a new chance at a new beginning and a new, just like a starting line I always just think about, what am I going to do next year? There's a whole year ahead of us. And what do I want to do with my time? Where do I want to invest my energies? So for me, it's always a time when I'm always trying to finish the things up in 2025, like wrap the things up from the old year, but also like kind of planning and thinking about where I want my year to go. If you're also doing that, this episode's kind of for you. I want to talk about like how it's very common for people to think about New Year's resolutions, and then the classic joke is at the end of January we forgot what our resolution was. And kind of just wanted to maybe talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about changing and like how to actually like make the change, how to invest yourself into something that you've wanted to do. And how to get out of your own way. I think, for me at least, it seems that the person that's sort of stopping me from doing the things that I want to do is a lot of the times myself. And, you think about like, if you're making a change and you want to like strive for something and accomplish something, it's hard. It's new. You don't really have any experience in it. And I think a lot of times, at least for me, the biggest thing that comes up is your inner critic and somebody just telling you like, that voice in your head that's saying like, oh, you're not good enough to do that. You'll never be able to accomplish that. Maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. Who are you to think that you can do this? It's hard when you want to go and accomplish things and go try something new. And I think I've noticed that one of the biggest inhibitors of accomplishing things and reaching your goals and getting out of your own way is your inner critic and yourself. And I think that there's things that we can do to help soften our inner critic. And so that's an idea that I've been working with for a while. I've been secretly building this this guide, and it's called Softening Your Inner Critic in 7 Days, a guide to stop getting in your own way. And I have a link for you to download this guide and to use it at the end of this episode. But basically the idea of this guide is that if we can be kinder to ourselves and learn how to stop being so critical of ourselves, then we can actually start getting out of our own way and to start accomplishing more things. And, I've thought about this concept a lot. My initial idea was to have this done before, like at the beginning of December. But I've been just working on it and refining it and honing it down and making it more digestible and more simple and cutting all the fat. And so it's something that I'm really proud of. And I think that just really has got me thinking about how we're the ones that limit ourselves. And so I kind of just wanted to touch on that in this episode today. And then if it's something that interests you, you can go and download that guide and take the 7 day, it's not really a challenge, but more of a commitment to yourself to try to help your inner critic and to try to be a little bit kinder to yourself. Thinking about how everything starts in our minds, and if our mind is not a nice place, and if our mind is like constantly critical, then it makes a lot of things harder to accomplish, and it makes new things harder to try. And I think it can keep us in our comfort zone a lot. And, a little bit of a critical voice is great, wanting the best and trying to do the best at the things that you want to accomplish. That's a great thing. But especially for myself, I've noticed that it's just way overboard. The volume on the inner critic is just like at 11 sometimes. And if we could turn that down to like 3, then, maybe that'd be a good spot to be. And it's something that for me, I didn't even really notice about myself. And only through therapy and like conversations with other honest people. I think I told the story one time about how I was getting coffee with somebody and telling him about a project that I was working on, and sort of ran through the project, and then like I was done talking about it, and I looked at him and I was like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think? And he just like looked at me for a second and was like, man, you're really hard on yourself, aren't you? And I was like kind of taken aback for a second, because I was like looking for feedback, and that was his first comment. And I was like, oh wow, is it that obvious, like so it was kind of a shock. But it's always like a reminder to me. I always have to remind myself, like, this inner critic volume is too high, and I got to try to turn it down a little bit if I want to allow myself to get out of my own way and to start doing some of the things that I want to do. And, for music, that's certainly rang true. I think I told myself for a really long time that I wasn't good enough at music. I wasn't good enough to be in a band. I wasn't good enough to put music out there, to write my own music. And looking back, if I were to just have started it earlier and gotten out of my own way, I would have sucked at the beginning, but I would have gotten better a lot quicker. And I think that's like a common thing for me, is to stop myself for a really long time until it's just like, okay, I really like this thing a lot. I really can't stop doing music, so I'm just going to keep doing it, and I'm just going to do it anyways. So to think about that idea of our own inner critic and how we can sort of get a better hold of it, and how we can think about maybe showing up as, for lack of a better term, cheerleader instead of a critic, or, a coach. How can we be somebody who's supportive of our own self instead of being someone to tear us down? Because there's always going to be people to tear you down and to tell you your ideas suck, and, to be mean to you. But if you're doing that to yourself, then it's like, it's even worse. So I think it's very important to be your own supporter and to believe in your own ideas and to believe in your own self. Because when you have, big ideas and dreams and things that you want to chase after, you can't look outwardly for inspiration. Maybe sometimes you can look outwardly for people to tell you to do it, but a lot of times you're the one going to bed at night thinking about like, can I do this thing or can I not do this thing? So you need to be somebody who believes in yourself. And I hear it a lot of times with famous musicians or athletes, just the self-belief that's necessary to get to, where they've gotten. And so anyways, I feel like I'm rambling a bit about this, but I really think it's important that we're kind to ourselves and we're supportive of ourselves. And, we can hear that critic in our head, but we don't necessarily have to listen to it all the time. And so that's why I've built this guide, Soften Your Inner Critic in 7 Days, a guide to stop getting in your own way. And I really wanted it to be done before the end of the year because, if you are out there and you have New Year's resolutions or goals that you want to make, I think that this is a perfect complement to that. And, it's not going to tell you how to reach your goals, but it's going to tell you how to be more supportive of yourself and more kind to yourself and more loving to yourself so that you have the support to reach those goals. And I hope it's helpful. I spent a lot of time making it, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be helpful, but I do believe in it, and I do think that it's something that it is something that I'm proud of. So if you want to download that, I have a link in the description. You can click over and go download that. It'll bring you to like a little download page. You put in your email, and it'll send it to you completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. It just puts you on my email list. And let me know if it's helpful for you if you download it. And then, before I get out of here, before we end the year in 2025, I do want to do a little recap of the podcast and just take a moment to appreciate you all, the listener. I want to appreciate my progress through the last 6 months. I brought this podcast back in 2025 in July, and I took about a year off and reformatted the podcast. So if you haven't listened to the older episodes, they're all interview styles, and I interviewed some great people. I had some great conversations with some inspiring people. And but when I brought the podcast back in July, it was a solo podcast, and it was just me kind of talking about ideas and things that are inspiring to me and things that I believe in. And since July, we're now in December, I've released, this will be the 40th episode, and that's a good number for me. I feel like that's, something to be proud of. I was doing 2 episodes a week for a while, and started my YouTube channel, which was something new. I think I started that in like September, growing my subscribers, and just really proud of what I've done over the past 6 months, and very thankful and grateful for everybody who's listened and everybody who's reached out and said something nice. Like there's been people that have just kind of, people I didn't know, people that I did know, people that I didn't expect to reach out and say something and to, tell me how an episode affected them. And that's been amazing and awesome. And I really appreciate that. And just thank you so much for being here. And I think next year, 2026, going to come at this podcast even stronger and won't be as often. I think I'm going to stick to a weekly podcast for next year. But still we're improving. I'm looking at different ways to make it better and to incorporate the feedback and everything like that. So just thank you for being here. And then I just wanted to say sort of my podcast wrapped, the 2 most listened to episodes over the past 6 months. The first one was overcoming the expectations of others. So that's been really cool. I didn't expect that to be like the most listened to episode. And then and the episode on imposter syndrome was the second one. So if you haven't listened to those, you can go search them in the podcast website. That's in the link. And I don't have the episode numbers, although that would have been helpful. I think overcoming expectations was 45, but I have to check me on that. But yeah, anyways, I hope that all of you have a great holiday season. I hope it's restful. I hope you could take some time to yourself, with your families, friends. And thank you so much for listening. I will be back in January. So look out for that. And if you're interested in the guide that I've been making for the past few months, Softening Your Inner Critic in 7 Days, a guide to stop getting in your own way, you can find the link in the show notes and go ahead and download that and have that guide sent straight to your inbox. It's just, a PDF guide with a bunch of links and resourced books and things like that. So go check it out if you're interested. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in 2026. Thank you.